Ram has asked a question which causes a lot of people who've got a belief in God a lot of problems. Certainly been a problem in the Christian tradition. Why, if there's a God of love, is there such suffering in the world? Why is there pain? And why do bad things happen to good people? It's a big problem. I think this is indicated here, this is acknowledged here in the Yoga Vasistha by the fact that the next person to speak is Valmiki, who's the author of this work. And there is a major contradiction here. The absolute is supposed to be of the nature of bliss, and if you believe in God, a God of love, then you believe that God is love. And it's quite difficult then to explain away the pain and sorrow that obviously exist in the world. And the question then we have to ask ourselves, if in our experience, is there fundamental bliss, or is there fundamental despair? And you might actually experience both. Sometimes you feel this universe is a wonderful place, and sometimes you feel it's a pit of suffering. And a lot can depend on your mood. But if we look really deep into it, if we look really deeply into it, this is what we need to do. We need to examine our disposition. We can certainly think of a lot of reasons for being sad, for being miserable. Because there is a lot of bad stuff in the world, there's a lot of suffering in the world. But is that a reason for us to feel bad? When confronted with suffering, which happens on a daily basis, we get global communications now, so the latest tragedy, the latest atrocity can be brought to our attention immediately. So how are we supposed to respond to that? Just feel bad about the what's going on in the world? You know, we could be actively involved if we feel bad about it. But you might just be thinking, well, what's the point? What's the point in doing anything? You might give in to despair. But you don't need to. You know, why contribute to suffering by being miserable? Somehow it seems bad to or insensitive to be happy in the face of other people's suffering. Although I have to say that's not my experience. You know, when I've been with a friend who's had a close one who's died, then I'm fairly matter of fact about it. And although I'm not unsympathetic to my friend's condition, I don't feel I need to put on a gloomy face. It's best just to be, in fact it is actually quite good just to be happy, and not to get caught up in gloom. Gloom is it can spread like a fire, and I think we've got a duty almost not to let it spread like a fire, without being insensitive, of course. But there's no reason for us to be gloomy because everybody else is gloomy. And as I was pointing out, I think we've got a duty almost to be upbeat in the face of suffering. And I don't think I've actually offended anybody by being that way. So that's on a personal level, but on an impersonal level, on the level of global communications, when we are hearing on a daily basis, maybe several times a day, about all the bad things that are going on, what is the point in being gloomy? I mean, if we're going to do something about it, fair enough. We get out there and we do something about it. But most of us are too busy just getting on with our lives. We've decided what we're doing with our lives and we're getting on with it. So are we supposed to just going around feeling guilty about that? What's the point? It's as if there's some virtue in being miserable. And it's part of the culture in the West, I think, that somehow you're being more real, more grown up, more mature, more sensitive by being miserable. But as you're just compounding the problem, you're just spreading misery, and what's the point in that? So it's something worth looking at, whether you agree with what I've said or not. Let's just examine what's going on here, as always.